Today we're going to talk about the healthcare system in the Philippines. Let's get into it. The healthcare system in the Philippines, I don't have a ton of experience with it, but I do know back in 2013 for the locals, this doesn't count for an expat like me, they went to a universal healthcare system, and I mean, I don't understand it completely, but I don't think it completely covers everybody and all their health care. I know my girlfriend, she's going to get on this this federal system, government system, whatever you call it here, that's called PhilHealth. That's 2,400 pesos a year, and for her, because she's a local, it covers most of everything. I think it's kind of like the US, you have to pay a little bit if you go to the hospital, but it's not much, and it covers big stuff like pregnancy and stuff like that. And 2,400 pesos is less than $50. So for a year, that's really good for them. For us expats here living here, you probably have to get some kind of outside health insurance coverage. There's a few I've heard about that you could get that are pretty good, but I don't have any right now because I'm only living here for half a year at a time, and I'm just kind of rolling the dice. But I don't know how smart that is, but like I've said in several of my videos, I don't have any health problems. I'm healthy. I'm not really worried about that per se, but like a heart attack or a stroke, I'm not worried about. But a motorcycle accident or something like that, could happen at any time. I talked about this too on a few videos ago. I almost got in a motorcycle accident a few weeks ago. I won't get into it, but it would have been my fault if it happened, and it was with a truck, so I definitely would have at least been in the hospital, I'm sure, broken some bones, and I probably would have had to pay out of pocket. And I've had health insurance traveling in the past, and I've had to use it like in Chile about a decade ago. I was there. I was working there actually, so I had I can't remember the name of the health insurance company, something Nomad, but I had to get 7 or 8 stitches in my lip here. I was on a sup board going down the river, and anyway, I went flying off the sup board and hit my face on a log. Had to get stitches, and in the Chilean hospital, the 7 stitches was only $80. With the traveling health insurance I had at the time, you have to pay out of pocket, then you have to send in a bunch of paperwork, and they pay you whatever they feel like paying you. But because it was $80, I actually never sent in the paperwork because it was just, it was like a ream of papers to fill out, and I was just too lazy. I just said it was $80, But that 7 stitches in the US would have cost $2,000, $3,000, $4,000. I'm not even sure. Even 10 years ago, it would have cost a small fortune, I'm sure. Thinking about getting some kind of travelers insurance here. If I move here, I'll definitely get some kind of more permanent insurance. I know some of the expats have talked about on their channels some of the better insurances you get, and I'll have to do more research on that. But anyway, they have the universal healthcare system. I think it's called universal healthcare here for the locals, and then they have PhilHealth. I think it's part of that, what my girlfriend is going to get. But I did have to go to the hospital one time last year, right before Christmas. I had something going on with my urinary tract, It basically felt like I was peeing razor blades, and it went on for a couple of days, so I was like, reluctantly, I'm going to have to go to the hospital here. Me and my girlfriend weren't together at the time, and we were sexually active, so I thought that might have something to do with it, and all those things go through your head that you worry about with something like that. So I was like, I better go to the hospital. So I did. I went to the hospital. It's called Black Nazareth Hospital here in Loag City in the north. I heard it was a decent hospital. When you first walk in, I was like a little taken aback because it's kind of like an open air hospital, like there's a partial roof on it, and I mean, that's just the lobby part, but you get used to that in the tropics here because, they don't really need closed buildings. There's no heating necessary. They just need protection from rain and wind, basically. So yeah, there was like a roof, but partially the side of the roof is missing, kind of thing, you know. But that was fine. But the hospital, like everything else in the Philippines, is there's like several steps and red tape. So like the pharmacy's in the hospital, but it's like a separate area of the hospital you go to. And I think that's true of some American hospitals too, but it's different here. So you go to the front desk and there's like a nurse there, and you tell your problem, and she gives you she writes it up and stuff, and then she sends you to the cashier, and you go to the cashier, you know, right in the middle of the place is a cashier. It's got a queue. There was only like 3 or 4 people in the queue when I got to the cashier, so I waited 10 minutes. I went to the cashier, and they were like, da-da-da, okay, 2,000 pesos, $40, and go wait over there. And so I go into another area where there's another queue, and I see another nurse, and he takes my blood pressure, and he's like, oh, your blood pressure's a little high. And I'm like, yeah, I think I have a fever. I don't feel real well, you know. I have this issue. And he's like, okay, well, we think you need to see the urologist, so just go wait in the queue there. And the queue is just a bunch of chairs, so you just sit there. So I waited. That was the longest wait, probably about an hour. I saw the urologist, and he was a nice guy. He was like, oh, you're American, cool, you know, my brother-in-law lives in Hawaii. A lot of people in the north here have relatives in Hawaii for some reason. They have a Hawaiian parade here in the spring that I was at last year. They have close connections with Hawaii here in the north. So a lot of people are like, oh, I have a family in Hawaii and whatnot. But anyway, the urologist was a good guy. He did the usual urologist stuff. He was like, you know, checked me for, you know, a hernia, checked me for this, that, and he's like, asked me if I had back pain, and he's like, okay, I think you have you know, a urinary tract infection, basically a fungal infection, and he's like, we're gonna do this, this, and this. So he sends me to the cashier again to pay for some tests, and I'm gonna go upstairs to go to the testing area where they take like blood tests, and I had to take him a cup of my urine actually too. I had to go into the bathroom and pee in a cup, and instead of like in the States where an orderly or a nurse does that, you pee in the cup and then you physically bring it to the testing lab, and you go up there and you wait in the queue there with your little cup of urine. And you know, they did my test. They were like, come back in like 20 minutes. I went back, got the test, and then I take the test and I go back to the urologist and I take him the tests. And because I already saw him, I didn't have to wait on the queue. I went right back in. He's like, okay, I know what's going on. Take this medicine and that medicine, and he writes a prescription for me, and he's like, go to the pharmacy, and the pharmacy is also in the hospital, so I go to the pharmacy, pay for the drugs I needed, which are antibiotics, which was the most expensive part. I think a 14-day round of antibiotics was about $60. I'm not even sure how much they cost in the States because I haven't taken antibiotics in a long time, but I think that was more expensive than the actual visit to the urologist and the testing. But altogether with the drugs, I think it all came out to around $120. And that's basically my experience with the healthcare system. But I've heard some good and some bad stuff. I have an older friend named John who's in LOAG, and he's not crazy about the hospitals there, but he's a veteran, and you know, there's a veteran service in Manila. Manila is actually the embassy in Manila, the American embassy, and I think it's the veterans office is there, and the Social Security office for all of Southeast Asia. So if you have an issue, you could go there. And of course, Manila is 15-hour drive from here, 12-hour drive in the car, 15-hour bus ride, but a 1.5-hour flight. I've also heard from Paul in the Philippines, the old dog, that because he had the embassy, the ambassador for the Philippines on his show, actually. I think it was on the phone. But this guy said that if you are an American and you can't get the care you need in the part of the Philippines that you are living in, if you're still an American citizen, if you hold an American passport, that you could call down there under an emergency situation, and they'll send a helicopter I don't know how true this is, but they'll send a helicopter to come and get you and bring you to a hospital in Manila. And I know they have good hospitals in Manila. So you can be flown to Manila if you have like a heart attack or a stroke or something life-threatening that they can't take care of here. You can be flown down. Now, of course, I mean, you could die in the transportation. It's a long way from Manila. So if you're coming here and you're moving here and you have, serious health problems, I mean, if they're really serious, you probably want to stay in the U.S., especially if you get Medicare or something like that. But if you have like a, diabetes, something where you might need emergency care at some point, I would live closer to Manila than, like, say, I'm currently living, or Cebu. Cebu also has great hospitals. So anyway, if you're moving here, if you're an expat, if you're just traveling, I would say get some travelers insurance, because you're probably going to rent a scooter. You're probably going to, first time I was here, I rode 300 kilometers on my scooter. I crashed once because the tires were bald. I went through a puddle and just lost control. There was nobody around. It was like in Mold Bowl, which is an area like that. I mean, it's on the island of Cebu, but there's nobody there. It's a tourist town. I mean, there's people there, but if you ride around the road, it's not like riding around in the city. But yeah, if you're coming here as a tourist, I would just get some travel insurance. But if you plan on moving in here, I would look into getting some kind of good long-term insurance, and I would also live closer to an area with good hospitals if you have health problems, like Manila or Cebu or Davao, any of the big cities. Like if you're in a smaller city like here, like I'm at Loag, there is 2 hospitals in Loag, but like I said, I went to one of them. I don't know if I'd want to go to that hospital if I had a stroke or a heart attack. Not to diss the doctors in the hospital or anything, I just don't think it's up to first world par. Maybe it is. Maybe if you're a Filipino listening and you know the capabilities of Black Nazareth, you can comment below and tell me I'm wrong. But anyway, that's all I got for today. If you guys like my stuff, again, like, subscribe, comment, and I'll be back in a few days with another video.